All right, everybody. Welcome back to the VWM podcast. For episode 9, we got Virginia-based music producer and good friend of mine, Brisc, on the air with us today. How you feeling, bro?
Yes, sir. Feeling great, feeling great. Glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on,
Yeah, bro.
sir.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course,
So,
of course,
to kick things off, I want to have you give the viewers some background about yourself. Just typical things like where you're from, what
of
you do,
course.
and what exactly got you into the music scene.
All right, so I go by Brisc. I'm from Leesburg, Virginia. I'm a music producer, but I recently just got into videography and editing, things like that. And really like the way I got into it. I guess I've just always been around music and just entertainment, things like that my whole life. My dad, even in college, like he used to DJ. And I recently found out that he used to like shoot weddings. Men used to use Final Cut back in college, which is
That's
crazy
like,
to me. So just being around that like my whole life. So
yeah, that's fire. I mean, a lot of people get that influence from their parents or their family. This is what I've been seeing a lot with these artists, like both recording artists and producers. It's just everybody has some attachment to music, regardless of what type it is, you know? Um,
definitely.
and what's interesting about this interview is I typically only interview recording artists. I think you're the first producer we've had on here. So
Yes,
this is
sir. Yes,
this is
sir.
a
Gotta start the
milestone.
wave.
This is a
Go.
VWM
Let's go.
milestone, bro.
Producer takeover. I've been saying that. Let's go.
Yeah. So something that I want to talk about doing these interviews with recording artists, it's been interesting looking at the difference between a producer's workflow and a recording artist's workflow.
Definitely.
So, something I wanted to ask you off the bat is what would you say your creative process looks like when it comes to composing a new instrumental? And what differences would you say there are between producers and recording artists?
All right. So usually when I'm making a beat, first I'm deciding if I'm starting off with like my own loop, if I'm gonna collab with somebody on a loop, or if I'm just straight up like using somebody else's loop where I just like hit them up and they send me like a Dropbox pack or something and I'm cooking up off that.
Yeah.
But pretty much, I mean, I usually in the past I would just cook up like whenever I felt inspired to, but I guess as time has went along and I've started taking more seriously, it's been more of like I guess I sort of like need to, and like I've tried to just make it more of like a habit, and then of course that's just helped me get better with it too. But and it's definitely like completely different processes for making loops versus making a beat because it's I pretty much break it down into if I'm making a melody or if I'm making drums that day, pretty much, or just in that
Yeah.
session, pretty much. It's hard for me to go through and do both in one session without me either getting tired of it or something like that. So
Yeah. And that's one of the differences that I've been noticing between producers and recording artists.
mhm.
Recording artists can just be in and out. And same for
Yeah,
producers, but there's a lot more that goes into it, a
yeah,
lot that
it's a
people
lot.
don't know about. So I guess would you agree with that there's a big difference when it comes to your workflow because you're, for one, starting with zero soundscape. You don't have anything
Mhm.
to really like base what you're about to do.
From
You just
scratch.
go for it and you start from
Yeah,
scratch. I think that's it really highlights the importance of producers in the industry. So this is exactly why I want to have you on here too, because like
yeah.
producers need more credit, bro. So yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely I would say way more tedious than being a recording artist. I don't definitely don't want to knock anything against it, but like now there's BandLab and everything like that, and there's just presets you can download, which are still hard to find and everything, but there's a lot of just ways that you can just hop into it and still be great. Where I feel like producing, there's absolutely zero chance you're gonna hop into it from scratch and make something great, especially if you've never seen FL, Ableton, Logic, nothing like that.
yeah. And the shit's expensive too.
Exactly. Producing is very expensive.
Producing is very
Yeah,
expensive. You need the
very
whole
expensive.
setup, all the programs, all the plugins. Like it's wild. So definitely shout out to all the producers, bro.
Definitely.
Um, Another thing I wanted to ask was when it comes to working with recording artists, do you mainly only take care of beat production or do you do post production as well, engineering, mixing, mastering kind of stuff?
I've definitely, I would say I definitely do both. But I first started maybe like recording was when I first linked up with SS Nova, who I guess back then he went by Cap 26, and that was my really like my one of my first times like really recording something, and then from there we've just been another workflow we have is just like he would record something and then like send it to me after for me to like touch up or something like that. But I'm still more of a fan of the production side, but I'm definitely getting back into the sound designing and sound engineering side of
Yeah,
things.
I think it's good that you've dove into that a little bit too, because it just makes
Mhm.
you more valuable when it comes to like if somebody wants to have you at a studio sesh, like sometimes it's much more than just having a beat. Because a lot of times
Exactly.
people come in with a beat already. It's not necessarily always a studio cookup. So they might have it on load already. So I think being an engineer on the side is also another nice gig to have. Um, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. Um, saw a few months ago. I don't really remember when this was, but you were in Richmond with Sarah Nobu, Andrew. Um, were
This
you
was,
at
I believe,
Defiant Studios?
I'm sorry.
Was that at Defiant Studios in Richmond?
Oh yeah, that was around like sometime last year. I think
Yeah, it
that
was
was
a
like
brick.
their they had like their first like open Friday or something. I went down there, stayed with him. We just went to that open studio, and luckily someone I knew down here put me on to one of the engineers who's our age, and then that was that was really my first time ever being in a studio and just being around even just like anyone in like the music community, like even professionals or anyone somewhat professional. But that was
Yeah. So how did you feel about that? And have you been back to a studio since?
I've actually like 2 months after that, I did go back to Richmond. I went to Good People's. I met up with Keith Black. If I believe, yeah, you probably know him.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I'm
but
following you on Instagram.
besides, but besides that, I really haven't been back to an actual studio. Just really been because I've also been working on more engineering things like that, and I feel like the times where I've had been wanting to go, it would be on like my end. But then it's like, if I'm the producer, why am I? Why would
Yeah, I
I do
hear
that?
you.
Why would I do
I
that?
hear you.
So, I mean,
Um,
nothing against it. I definitely want to try to go to more this upcoming year, things like that. So,
yeah. So from a marketing standpoint, how do you think a producer should go about getting their beats out there and monetizing their business?
um, really, a lot of people say like in the beginning, just flood your YouTube with type beats and all that. But I think we all know by now that market is extremely flooded.
Oh
And what
yeah.
I've honestly been trying to do now is really shift my position to try to like actually offer something to other musicians. Like I started putting out a few more loop packs. Right now I have a tutorial filmed. I've had that in the vault for too long. I need to put that out.
I
But
fuck with
really
the
just yeah,
tutorials. I've watched a
yeah,
few.
yeah.
They're well done.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I hope they really
To
help
try
people
to
to like teach other musicians. Like that's definitely what I've been going for, putting out the loop packs, starting the tutorials, which I need to still put one out. Definitely need to do that. But just having someone to offer because that has repeat watch value. That's actually going to help somebody. They're going to remember, oh, this is the dude I go to that's going to help me with that. So
yeah, I think there's
just
a
things
lot
like
of
that.
value
Offer
there.
value. Definitely offer value. And I'm also going to say now, like we just said, like maybe offer another service. Like maybe if the person doesn't want to use your beat, you can record them. You can mix them. You can take pictures of them, anything like that. So
Yeah, I think that the tutorials is a much better outlet to getting actual customers versus the type beats. Just because
mhm,
if you're helping somebody out, they're gonna become not solely reliant on you, but kind of reliant on you in a way where they'll trust
definitely.
you based off of your knowledge, and really it'll be a sales funnel from there. Like you can market more services throughout time, the more connections you make through tutorials and through helping people.
Exactly.
So I think that's definitely a good business move.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of on a side note, I wanted to ask you what producers inspire you, not just inspire your sound, but also inspire you to continue working and getting better. Are there
Mhm.
any producers that are really, I guess, doing it different and like teaching you the way?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I always shout out TM88. I definitely think that his producing technique is. I think he's been ahead of the game for a while. Really, him. I have to say for newer producers, I have to say Retta. He's worked with Sheck West, I think Yeet, a few songs for Yeet. He works a lot with Lunchbox. he's probably like out of the newer producers, he's definitely my favorite. Of course, Pierre. I have to say Pierre and Metro for the way that they, I guess they convey their like artistic abilities just outside the music. Like Metro has like the had a whole short film with Morgan Freeman and the dude
Right.
from Atlanta, and
Yeah.
Pierre is always just going deep into his creativity bag. So I would definitely say those just off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that you mentioned about people like Metro Boomin going hard on not just the music, but also the aesthetic. Like the way
Mhm.
they're portraying themselves in the industry is important. And I've noticed you've dove into some other passions aside from making music. I see you've started doing a lot more
Definitely,
photo video work and graphic design and whatnot. So could you tell us a little bit about that, what you've been up to in regards to that stuff?
definitely. Um, I'm trying to really remember how I like first got into it. I definitely started with graphic design. I would say my major I'm at James Madison. My major is media arts. Previous experience probably just from like designing little covers just for like probably SNO and just myself with my previous instrumental album, things like that. And then finally taking a few classes on it, just Adobe classes, things like that. Just things just started to really come together, and then once I got a camera in my hands, it was just from there. From there, it was pretty much up. Pretty much, it's just I've seen too many opportunities to film, and
Yeah, it's all over the place. And
it's
I
going
think,
good. So yeah,
I think even if it's not related to music, photo and video work is just everywhere. Every business
yeah.
needs that kind of
Definitely.
marketing.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
and to me, really, I feel like I still feel like music videos is, I guess, like the best or the coolest way of or medium of like film. Someone that's what I'm still, of course, working my way up to and things like that. Is just to create professional music videos. So on one
so yeah,
hand.
like you were saying, the creative mediums like photography, videography, and I'd say even fashion, I think mesh really well into the music scene because it
Mhm.
all has to do with the way you're portrayed as an artist or producer. Because people pay attention to that kind of stuff, and that can be a differentiator as well. Much like producers making tutorials instead of just making type beats.
Mhm.
It's just as much as a differentiator because people associate what you wear, how your videos look, how music videos look, really everything. For people like Metro Boomin, if they're gonna drop an album, whatever is leading up to that is gonna become crucial when it comes to other executive producers trying to do the same thing. Like I'd say DJ Khaled does it, not as good as
Of course.
Metro.
Yeah, not as good, but yeah, he does his thing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like if you're not trying to reach the pinnacle like Metro is with his aesthetic, I think it's gonna really like hold you back in a way if you're not willing to dive into some other creative mediums.
Exactly. And like I of course I try to include like sound design with it. Like a lot of the times when I'm before I even like export a video, I'm taking that audio, putting it in FL Studio or Logic, and then putting it back in to the file. Something like that.
Yeah.
So
I saw you posted some sound design video the other day and like that really got me thinking like that's like a whole nother level of
it's a
production.
whole nother, yeah. It really is too, but I mean it's kind of I feel like it could be easier in a way, or it is somewhat kind of easier in a way, but the thing for that is what I've been doing for that is I have been doing sound design and running audio for two short films, and the hardest part really is just recording it, recording the people and fine miking up people and doing things like that. But the
So
post
when y'all
process
are
side, that's my bread and butter.
yeah, when y'all do sound design, are these all digital audios or are some of them literally recorded with like objects in a room? Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Um, what I'm gonna do, I'm working on one right now, or sound design for a film right now. What I did was I still try to record as many like little things that I could, like doors opening or whatever, just like sounds of the room. But of course, some of it is still gonna be have to be added in like digitally, things like
yeah,
that. So
I think all that's so cool, bro. Because I used to mess around with that a little bit when I used to drop videos so much more, and like that became a focus of mine is adding sound
mhm.
effects, and I just had so much fun with that.
It
It's
is, bro.
a good time.
It's the best, for
Yeah.
real.
So looking ahead at this year, what would you say your priorities are? Like we're going into the summer soon, getting off school a little bit. So like, what would you say is at the top of your list to get accomplished, whether it's musically or another creative medium? What are you thinking about right now?
I know at least sometime this summer I still do want to drop like a compilation album with like everything produced by me. Definitely something with that. That still's been on my mind for probably like the last 2 years. And I've still had like material to put it out, but of course I want that to be perfect. That but along with that, I still do I want to actually start dropping more songs on my SoundCloud. Same thing with artists getting on my beats. But
Yeah,
I guess like really to start building more of a brand for myself and really be known and really the three different lanes. I want to be known in music production, videography, and sound design. That's literally like my three lanes. I'm glad that I've really narrowed them down to those three, and now I just have to execute on it. So
yeah, I think it's a nice trifecta.
yeah.
Um, Speaking on the compilation album you were just talking about, if you were to throw that together, what artists so far have you recorded with on your beats that you would maybe include in there? I know you've worked with SS Nova. Who else have you worked with, and what do you have to say about the recording of those songs and like how it went down? And if you shot music videos too, you can definitely talk about that as well.
Some other people that will be on it. First off, an artist named Squiff. He's down here in Harrisonburg. We don't really record often, but it's like anytime we do, it's anything that man touches is magic. So definitely him. Saki and Jelly, I met him through SS Nova. So if he's on it, then if SS Nova's on it, then he's definitely got to be on it. I would definitely try to get Sarah on. We actually do have one song, but it's vaulted from like maybe like a year ago, something like
Yeah,
that. But we're
yeah, y'all
definitely
gotta
gonna have
run it
to,
back.
yeah, we're definitely gonna have to get back on that. Uh, I have another few other artists down here. One of his name is Lucid. We started recording like a year ago. I don't think I've really he's promoted too much yet, but we're definitely going. Y'all definitely going to hear him too. So
You know, I didn't know there was artists like that in
there's a
here.
few, bro. I've been what's it called digging in the gutters for
It's
real.
it's not it's not the same as places like Richmond.
Yeah,
It's really not. But I mean, you can always travel though. Like that's the cool thing about being in college. It's like you do have the time every once in a while to like leave for the weekend and go
definitely.
somewhere where that is found. Like, but
Yeah,
also at the same time, it's much better to have it right around you. So I'm glad that you found a few artists in your area. Like, I
yeah.
I, I really didn't know like it just sounds hard to find people,
I
but it
mean,
it also probably helps you're in classes that are like revolving around music too.
yeah. But then again, we are in Harrisonburg. A lot of there are, of course, artists here. There's going to be artists at every school, but our
Yeah,
school is mainly, I guess, more like I don't want to say acoustical, but you know what I mean, like band, more band,
yeah, I hear
more
you.
band music. Yeah,
Yeah,
rock bands, things like that. So
yeah. So,
shout out to Sound Band too. That's my favorite. Yes, sir.
yeah. So, kind of just to tie this together, is there anything coming from you soon that fans of yours, other producers you work with, or artists that
Mm.
use your beats can look forward to? I know you've been dropping and like you got some tutorials in the vault, but
Yeah,
like,
I gotta. All right, I'm gonna list one, I guess, from each little sector.
all right, but
All right, so for music, we already said I got the compilation album. That's gonna be on the way in the summer. We said that. For video wise, there will be a music video that has already been shot, or two that is on the way. And then sound design, there's about a 20-minute short film that's
20 minute
heavily
short
sound.
film.
Yeah, it's heavily sound. So excited for that too. Those are the three things.
Is that for school or is that you like personally?
That's that's me. That's me personally. I met the people from school, but they're all pretty much graduated. So
Damn, that's
like
hype.
it's not affiliated to JMU at all.
That's hype. No, I'm gonna definitely watch that.
Got to.
Yeah,
But
bro. Well, that's about to wrap up the interview for today. It was dope having you on here, bro. I
appreciate it.
think we hit a lot of great topics, and there's a lot to learn from people like you. So everybody watching at home, be sure to check out Brisc on social media and see for yourself what he's been cooking up. And thanks again for joining us, bro. It's been really fun.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, we'll see you all on the next one.